sir. You're about to see something really special.
Really thought this part of my life was behind me. Frenzy disappeared with the drinking 3 years ago. Why now? This makes no sense, and I'm right on the verge of freaking out.
Back from your life,
these people can be animals.
what you burn,
Thingy's out.
some bitter things you should never
Good cheese.
learn. Wallow through the days.
Remember, cosplay's not consent.
So here's to me. Congratulations, me. Yay, me.
This would all be so much easier if I was hammered. Hammered.
Won't be there anymore.
Right.
You can take away the anger, but you leave behind the pain. It's your soul I
New ventures are always scary.
feel till I'm melting
Blah, blah, blah. Something positive and uplifting.
tomorrow. But the hurt will still remain. In your soul I'll live forever till I'm melting in.
Don't miss our new film, The Love Song of William H. Shaw, coming soon to a streaming service near you. Hey everyone, this is Cliff from Talking Pondo. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about spoilers on the show. We do talk about the films in a certain amount of detail, so you may want to watch the film first and then come back if you're not a fan of spoilers. Also, every now and then there's a little bit of adult language, so we wanted to give you fair warning on that. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we really appreciate you listening. Welcome to Season 2 of Making Pondo and Talking Pondo. Talking Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty give each other a film to watch and talk about them in detail. Some episodes will include a special guest. Making Pondo is a podcast where Cliff and Marty talk to people they have worked with and discuss their experiences on set. All right, Marty, we're back.
We're back.
Talking Pondo.
Our movie today is We're Back, the Don Bluth animated film about dinosaurs coming. Is that what that movie was called? I don't even know. I'm going off the top of my head. If you start today's podcast at exactly 11:35 on New Year's Eve, at the stroke of midnight, nothing will happen probably. But
That's correct, because we do not know how this is going to go, and we don't know what movie is going to be talked about first. We can't even tell you.
But if you do watch one of the movies we talked about today and started at the correct time on New Year's Eve, you will start your New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or whatever you want to call it at stroke of midnight with a bang. Because
With a
this
big
is
bang.
Happy New Year's episode. Episode
right.
48 overall of the podcast, Season 2, Episode 12 of Talking Pondo. Wrapping up our holiday episodes here. We did some tangentially, is that way of saying that right? New Year's movies. I think yours was a little bit more New Year's-y than mine. Mine was a little more of the Christmas slant, but still takes place in that time period between Christmas and New Year's. So
Yes.
anyway, I'm Marty.
And I'm Cliff.
And we talk about movies here on Talking Pondo, where we give each other a movie to watch each week, and then we talk about them.
We love movies.
Yeah.
We're sort of obsessed with them. So
Right.
we're filmmakers ourselves, and this is what we do. So
We try to be honest about it. Yeah.
last week I gave you the Poseidon Adventure,
Yeah.
1972. The
Yeah.
Poseidon Adventure, and you gave me what, 1999? Is that right?
1999's Go.
Go, directed by Doug Liman.
Yeah, the second Doug Liman film. We watched Swingers a few months back, so now we're back.
And this movie also takes place in a casino.
Yeah, you just had to go back to
in a
Vegas.
casino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what should we start with?
I don't have a preference. Let's do Poseidon Adventure. Let's try that one.
Oh, okay. So the Poseidon Adventure, a movie that is 52 years old at the time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Poseidon Adventure?
All right, so written by Paul Gallico, Sterling Silifant, Wendell Mays, directed by Ronald Neame, starring a star-studded cast: Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, Shelley Winters, Red Buttons, Carol Lindley, Roddy McDowall, Stella Stevens. There's 5 Oscar winners in this movie. So the storyline of the film is a passenger ship on her way to the scrapyard is pushed to her limits by the new owners to save on the dismantling fees. A tidal wave hits her, flipping her over so that all the internal rooms are upside down. A priest takes a mixed band of survivors on a journey through the bowels of the ship in an attempt to survive.
Yeah, it's one of the granddaddies of disaster films, right? Was this the first, or was Airport?
No, there was, I believe, Airport and Earthquake were before this. But this is considered to be like the penultimate one. This is the one that kind of nailed it and got it all right. Where, actually, Inferno may have been before this too.
Towering Inferno was 74, I think.
74. So. Okay, so it would have been after this.
5. Yeah.
Starring Gene Hackman as a priest.
Our second action priest film.
Action priest. I have to say I'm kind of digging the action priest drama genre, and I'd like to see more of it on this show. Maybe a little Clint Eastwood as Pale Rider. We'll throw that.
That'll be next.
But yeah, right away you get Leslie Nielsen in a dramatic role, non-comedic role.
So it makes Airplane funnier.
Mm-hmm. And they kill him 25 minutes into the fucking movie. Yeah. And he's got like high billing in this thing.
So here's my question. So the guy who owned the ship made him speed up, right?
Right.
Did that make a difference once that tidal wave hit?
I read somebody that said that they hypothesized that actually he probably did them a favor because the ballast would have caused the ship to roll even easier, right? And it also left room for them to, when it flipped over, for them to climb up where there was air and things go, so they could get there. That's what I read. I don't know if I believe that or not.
Okay.
This is basically the Love Boat without a laugh track.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Stuff like this leads to the Love Boat, right? Mm-hmm. Just like earlier in the week, I was talking about It's a Mad, 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 Mad World with a coworker, and they basically said something to the extent of, "Oh yeah, and that just turned into reality TV, that format." Oh my God, it's The Amazing Race.
Yeah,
we don't make the Cannonball Run movies anymore.
Yeah, Cannonball Run is basically like the MTV's Road Rules type things. Yeah,
but back in the day, they were these crazy pack-em-in ensemble pieces that start from these, either that road movie aspect of Mad World, and then like these disaster movies. Like, so it'll be very interesting when we finally get up to Nashville, where Altman kind of takes that genre of so many different subplots and then kind of flips it. He kind of breaks it. Mm-hmm. So it's like you can't ever really do it the same way again. But this is before that. This is before the Age of Irony. This is 1972. We hadn't seen these tropes yet.
Yeah, no, this is all very earnest filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's no CGI in this movie. It's all the boat is a 25-foot miniature that is currently on display at the LA Maritime Museum. You can go see it if you want to. So the minis, all the effects are practical. They built the stage so that it would tilt in two 45-degree sections. So you'll see that as the boat is turning, it turns 45 degrees, everybody slides, and then they stop it, they cut away to something, and then when they cut back, they've got the next 45-degree section that turns, and they've moved all the furniture and everything. And then finally, once they get it upside down, that's when they finally move all the furniture, and they rebuild the set as a final upside-down set, which was really cool back in 72 to pull off. And you can see, I mean, it was nominated for something like 8 Academy Awards, 5 Academy Awards. I can't remember, but other than Shelley Winters getting a nod for the Oscar, everything else was like technical.
Yeah.
Like it won for the one it did win for was Best Song. And then everything else was like art direction, set direction, costume, cinematography, sound, at film editing. It also, I think it won for best song, right, and best dramatic score. by John Williams, by the way.
Oh
as
yeah,
the,
right. And what
composer.
was
Yeah,
that song?
there's got to be a big disaster.
Yeah, because now that makes the MST episodes where they make that riff extra funny to me. Having
There's
this
got to,
impression,
yeah. The song's called "There's Got to Be a Morning After." It was a #1 hit on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember as a very small child hearing it on the radio.
This thing was huge.
It was huge. For some reason, I have in my head, I've heard somebody since I watched this movie singing, "There has to be a big disaster" over and over again, and it's got to be from like a cartoon, like Family Guy or something like that. But yeah, maybe the listeners can tell us where.
As a momentary side note, this is why James Cameron is kind of that mad genius, because Titanic is the Poseidon adventure where you care about the B story.
Yeah.
He tried to bring everything up, or as opposed to what I mean is, the generic, that person's not going to make it, you're the token this, almost like a slasher movie, who's getting killed next,
Right.
But with Titanic, he builds the story more about all those characters, so he's hitting more. Because that's a big disaster movie too, right? That's another.
Oh yeah,
the boat
it's a
goes
huge
up
disaster
and goes down in that one instead of the flip over like in this one. So,
yeah. So the movie starts and basically
problems immediately.
The seas are high, very high seas. I think the captain says there's something like 18 feet, or no, 30 feet.
Wesley Crusher comes in and says,
and then, Wesley Crusher comes in and says, I've surfed shit almost this high, you pussy captain. And the captain's like, all right, get this little fucking shit out of here now, seriously. But yeah, the little kid comes in, he's annoying, and they have some kind of exposition, and then the captain talks to the guy who represents the company that owns the boat, and that guy's mad because they're running late and they're losing money every day that it's not in dock being dismantled. They're losing money on keeping the crew at dock waiting on it, and, all this type of stuff. And the captain's like, look, if we don't slow down and put some ballast into the boat, it could easily capsize. And he's like, just punch it or I'll fire you and put somebody else. And he's like, there are other qualified guys on this boat who can drive it. So the captain does what he's told, and so then we cut to a big dinner. Basically, there's a few small scenes where we meet the people. Like we meet Borgnine. Borgnine and his lady, which is they got their own spinoff show called The Cop and the Hooker. It was on CBS for like 3 years. Then you meet the priest and all this, but then we get to the dinner, right? We get to this big dinner and everybody's having dinner and it's New Year's Eve and they're going to count the ball drop and they're singing the big disaster song. And then
start the movie at about 11:35 p.m. on New Year's Eve. It'll hit right about their midnight. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then basically they get a call that a tsunami has happened, that a massive wave is heading towards them. They don't know where it's coming from, but there's like a tsunami type wave, and sure enough, it comes and it capsizes the boat. Everybody turns over upside down. A bunch of people get hurt, and the captain and everybody else is basically dead. They're underwater. While the dining room isn't. And so the ship's purser is telling everybody to stay where they are, that somebody's going to come and get them. And the captain's like, no, I'm a priest, and God is telling me that you're an idiot, and we should climb as high as we can and get to the hull of the ship, and that's where they'll cut us out. And so that's basically what happens. They start, some of them decide to go and start climbing up. And the best part of the movie for me is the 10 Commandments instant karma, where nah, fuck you, you're wrong, we're going to stay here. Go on, Moses, seek the Holy Land. And then as soon as he climbs up the Christmas tree and he waves back down at the people, here comes the fucking water and just starts murdering people, right?
Bye-bye, non-player characters.
Yep. So just right away, oh shit. And the water kind of chases them throughout the rest of the movie as they, and the rest of the movie is basically just a series of different areas on the boat that they have to kind of overcome. Either they have to move through this area, or have to watch out for water in this area, or whatever it is. That's basically what most of the movie is from that point on, and they just keep losing people as they go.
Yeah, like a video.
Like, let's stop in this area and try to overcome this thing. Oh, so and so's dead. Shit. All right, let's keep going.
It's like, checkpoint. Somebody's not surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love that because it's obvious that only the people who have stories are the ones who are going to climb up the tree. All these other people, the non-player characters, the NPCs as I call them, they're going to be like, "No, we're sitting here," and it's great because that instant, it's like the video game. It's like Dragon's Lair. You hit left, and here comes the thing, and the boulder washes everybody out, and that happens again and again at the end of one of their checkpoints. The person at the end in the caboose spot is looking back, and here comes that water.
Yep.
The movie surprises me because I could have sworn some people weren't going to make it, and I thought other people were going to make it because I didn't have a clear memory of the film. So that was kind of nice how they, even when inventing the tropes, they mixed it up from what you expect.
They did. And I think that's kind of the trick, right? Especially back then in those types of movies, is because they weren't sophisticated, in my opinion. Storytellers, they kept working with these tropes, and the idea was to kind of outdo the trope to a certain extent, or at least outdupe the viewer to a certain extent. Like, oh, well, surely that's the bad guy. I thought it was, But anyway, one of my favorite early quotes is "Shove it, shove it, shove it." I fucking love that shit.
It reminded me of San Francisco International, or none of these things would exist. Avalanche, they're all kind of the same movie, but this one had enough money to do it.
They're all related. Yeah, they're all related, but this one did it really well. This movie stopped production twice due to financial issues in pre-production because they just couldn't find the money, and eventually the producer convinced Fox to let him go finance half of it. And they said yes, and he walked across the street into a country club and convinced a bunch of guys he knew and was playing cards with to finance it.
That's interesting.
And they never actually touched the money, so it was a really good investment deal for them.
Because our other movie had to seek financing a couple times too and then I think Columbia came in when the other financier dropped out. So weird coincidence.
This is an event-driven film before they even called them event-driven films. You know what I mean? It's like different sets that do different things where, I need the burning water over here. I need the tilted thing here. Or, I need the slide here. We got to climb up this thing. Very Die Hard. It reminded me of Die Hard.
It's the arrival of the 70s, isn't it? In a way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is the 6th highest rated film to ever air on network TV, to premiere on network TV. I don't have the first 5, but this is the 6th.
Probably Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, things like that.
Yeah. And I read that the parody of this film is the best-selling issue of Mad Magazine ever published, and the only cover to not show Alfred E. Newman's face. He's floating dead. He's floating face down in the water.
See, this was before both of us were on the planet Earth.
Yep.
But apparently this thing was really hot.
Yeah. Very big.
Like, I remember disaster movies, but what I remembered turned out to be Beyond. Is that what it's called? Beyond the Poseidon Adventure?
Yes, that's the sequel.
And Michael Caine, Sally Field.
Yep.
And I think there's lava involved, because I swear I remember somebody falling off the bridge into lava. Of course, this Mandela effect of an 8-year-old. But when I read the plot line, people are going back to the boat to look for treasure. So what do they learn? There's some island that has a lava pit?
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm curious about that movie now.
I read that Michael Caine was on an episode of Carson and was talking about the sequel and said that Hollywood producers reached out to him and said, "Do you want to be in the sequel?" And he said, "Do you not remember that I die in the last 5 minutes of the Poseidon Adventure?" And they said, "Oh, no, we'll work around it." And he's just like, "No. How do you work around it?" And they told him that the idea was that he would play his twin.
Who, Gene Hackman?
Yeah, Hackman. Yeah,
Michael Caine actually is in them.
Oh, sorry, Hackman. Yeah, sorry, Hackman. But that I was just like, that's fucking insane.
I didn't expect Gene Hackman to not make it to the end of the movie, but yeah,
I didn't either.
And then you go all bleak 70s, right?
Oh, dude, one of the most chilling lines in this film is that little boy saying, "When he took me down to see the boilers," I was like, well, that doesn't sound good. That's probably not That's you shouldn't leave this kid alone with sailors. That's not a good idea.
We hadn't met Freddy Krueger yet, though.
This is the 70s, right? Yeah.
Innocent time.
Um,
This is a dark time.
on a serious note, the film really feels like it moves really well.
It does.
Like it moves from thing to thing quickly. It doesn't linger. It has its emotional moments. It does its thing, but it doesn't like drag it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these people are freaking out and they have their moments where they're fucking shitting their pants, but it's also not for 10 minutes where I'm not having to watch this long emotional breakdown. It's like more like a bang, 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 and then pick it up and move on.
Yeah. Much like Go, it's indicative of the time it was made, and it's quick paced.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one's very much 99 in your face, and this is very much 72. Yeah.
Agree, very, very much agree. This film is shot in sequence, by the way.
I believe it.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be the way you would, want to build out the shooting schedule too, right?
Well, they said it allowed costume and makeup to gradually keep degrading and dirtying them up, right? Without having to, remember the levels. You could tear the costumes and there they were. And the actors as they were acting get more and more fatigued, which makes them more and more tired as they're climbing all this shit. So that was a pretty smart idea.
It also reminded me of Swamp Diamonds, if you remember that MST classic, where they keep doing pit stops when they're on a little boat, and somebody doesn't make it at every pit stop, and they move on, and you're like, well, who's going to... It's like, there's that old trope. It goes all the way back to Roger Corman, who then Corman made a few disaster movies, too. I know Avalanche was one of his. Rock Hudson and Mia Farrow just wasn't lighting the box off the fire, because we had gotten to the later part of the 70s by then. But the real disaster movies that were the hits were the early 70s, right?
Those. Well, I think again, diminishing returns on an idea. It's like, how many different ways can you skin a disaster movie and make a buck off of it? And Hollywood figured it out, and then they quit making them for a while. Until Cameron was like, I'll make one of the greatest ones ever. Here you go.
Ultimate, yeah.
So there's an actor called Paul Orsetti who's in this movie, and he was chosen to do the big fall into the light, that big fall off the Christmas tree into the light. And he was nervous about it because he doesn't do stunts. And so he was talking to the stunt coordinator, and the stunt coordinator set the stunt up, and then he did a slightly shorter version of it, and he had his dog do the stunt onto the crash pad, and then he set it up a little bit higher, and he had his wife do it. And then the actor was like, "Yeah, okay, that looks safe. I'll do that." and apparently it worked out really well for him because he got really known for doing that stunt, that fall, and he got a lot of stunt work afterwards for it. So it kind of changed the trajectory of his career a bit, which I found kind of interesting. This movie was, I liked it. There's a lot of weird stuff about the film. I was looking into the kind of the lore behind it. Winters gains 35 pounds for the role. This role was actually offered to, you remember the woman who was in all the swimming movies back in the 50s? Was a professional swimmer. I can't remember her name, but she was offered the role. But her husband, who Fernando Lamas, wouldn't let her do it because she gained weight, and he didn't think she would photograph in a flattering manner. And she said later on, she was like, that was kind of the whole point, because like it was supposed to be a woman who used to be a champion swimmer but had gained weight. That's the character, So I found that kind of interesting.
And of course, you watch something 52 years after when it's made, and also being alive in the 70s and remembering different times, but it's like, oh wow, her whole character is there to just be one fat joke after another, right up until when she's dead, and Ernest Borgnine says, "You had a lot of guts, lady, a lot of guts." I'm like, oh my god, even in the bitter end. Well, that's the 70s for you.
Well, I think he was just talking about how
I know, but what a weird choice of words. Yes.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm like, oh man.
Apparently the actors performed a lot of their own stunts in this movie. they let Hackman do the
Abyss
beginning of
vibes, yeah.
they let Hackman do the beginning of that fall at the end where he, the one where he turns the wheel and sacrifices himself.
Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't let him do the fall into the fire because they were worried to get hurt and they still had scenes to shoot. But other than that, there was kind of like from what I read, a kind of an excitement and kind of a competitiveness about doing these different stunts. The actors were pretty big on it and enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I read a quote that Stella Stevens said she wished she'd kept the panties because she could have sold them on eBay for a buttload of money later on, which I found fucking hilarious. And did you catch the F-bomb?
Oh,
There's
I
an
think I
F-bomb.
heard it.
Yeah, Borgnine says it when they're moving the tree, when they all get it to move the
Oh,
tree.
yeah.
He goes, "Fuck, this is heavy," and they just left it in.
And PG.
Which is like a PG movie with an F-bomb, man. This is 72. You can get away with that.
Then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. Do I have any other notes on this? Oh, here's a crazy fucking note. The guitarist that plays in that band, not the guy that she cradles as her brother, but the other guy playing the guitar, that's Waddy Wachtel.
Mm.
The guitarist for basically Linda Ronstadt's early guitarist, and then was on a bunch of albums later.
That makes sense.
That was fucking crazy. I couldn't believe that. And then the James Martin character, I think that was Red Buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? That was originally supposed to be Gene Wilder.
Ah.
Which I found kind of an interesting choice. Yeah. I was like, that's fascinating. I would have liked to have seen that. Borgnine and Winters would later play a married couple on the Love Boat, and in fact, most of this cast shows up on the Love Boat at one point after this comes out.
I knew it.
Which I found fucking hilarious. Yeah. And then the last note I have is that apparently Ben Stiller loves this movie, and when he got up the nerve to talk to Hackman about it, Hackman basically went, "Oh yeah, money job," and just walked away. Like, if I came rushing up to like somebody was like, "Hey, oh man, oh yeah, that piece of shit, yeah, check movie," yeah, I just walked away. I would be completely crushed. But I thought that was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, going back to when we first meet Gene Hackman in his scene where he's just going off to the other priest who ends up being a non-player character, the other priest, I wrote down, "I'm spouting exposition." Well, it's not a normal conversation to lay out who you are as a person and stuff. It's just kind of funny when they do that in movies.
It is a weird sermon he's giving, to be honest, but yeah. I read that it tracks pretty well with like viewers and critics at, at 7s and 8s and things like that. But the ones who don't like it complain that the dialogue's kind of bad and those types of things. And I agree, some of the dialogue is just
you don't watch this for that.
Yeah,
that's why I say it's akin to the horror movies in a way where it's like, well, you're not watching those for the B stories either. You're seeing who's gonna survive, how are they getting killed, how's it happening, what's ratcheting up the tension. It's like there would be no Final Destination without movies like this. It's you could also call it eco horror, all right, if you wanted to go that far.
Yeah, I guess you could. You could. So you would put this and Godzilla in the same category.
Yeah, why not? It's the Earth doing its thing. It's mad.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And it reminded me of Night of the Living Dead, except this time you got 2 wrong assholes instead of just one, right? Because then they find the other group of people. Oh, we're going this way. That's wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, well, it's like a video game, NPC. You're only going to get like 2 reactions from these people. Go away. You're wrong. You're going the wrong way. It's planes, trains, and automobiles.
How would they know which way we're going? How do they know where we're going? No, I agree with you. And it's one of the things that one of my notes is, if you just ignore what the people who are running the boat tell you, you'll probably survive during this movie.
Yeah.
You immediately have to ignore all the survival advice that you're given.
Stick with Dell.
Stick with Dell.
What else do I have here? I think I had something else that maybe I did say everything about that, but okay. So they did a remake, right? Called
Yes.
Poseidon. I've never seen it,
Same.
but Kevin Dillon's in it, and so I'm thinking, I wonder. And then, like, as a nod to the Soulmates, I thought, what if I recast Poseidon with the cast of Entourage? Well, obviously, E is the Red Buttons character, right? Because he's the redhead guy who's, he's size-wise, he fits that character, right? And then it's like, is Turtle more of the Roddy McDowall character? Or is he more like the Ernest Borgnine? Because is Ari the Gene Hackman, or is Ari the Ernest Borgnine, or is it Vin?
I think Ari's probably the Ernest Borgnine,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of a cop, he reminds me more of the guy who tries to get on Hans's good side in Die Hard. But yeah, I would say that, and I would say Adrian Grenier is probably the father, the priest.
Right.
Would be my guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it's Turtle and Ari are the survivors.
Turtle is probably Red Buttons. He's probably Martin.
Or E, yeah.
No, I think Turtle.
Yeah.
Kind of like the ineffectual dude who just is following along. I think he would probably, I don't know.
Oh no, Turtle is Shelley Winters.
Okay.
Because all the fat jokes.
Well, you could say that E is Roddy McDowall.
Right? He just falls off. You were third from the last and you fell. Well, that's it for his screen time. We're back with Roddy McDowall again since class 1999. Or 1984, I mean. We're revisited Ernest Borgnine from Escape from New York. So it was some familiar faces.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the next one has a couple too.
Well, I think I had something else I was going to say about that. But no, maybe it was just that Shelley Winters thing was Turtle. Yeah. But either way, who did Kevin Dillon play in the remake? Are the characters the same? What does it say on IMDb? Was his character name? Give us any hint? I'm not going to sit through that one, but I am kind of curious if they made it and it came and went and nobody really said anything about it.
Well, let's see. Starring Richard Dreyfuss and Kurt Russell. Wolfgang Peterson directed. Kevin Dillon plays Lucky Larry.
Wow. We can only guess that his character is probably not that lucky in a movie like this.
Yeah, I would guess.
Well, write in and tell us so we don't have to watch it.
Please. Or, support the podcast and you can pick an episode and you can pick a movie that we have to watch and we'll watch Poseidon.
That's true.
As much as we don't want to.
Yeah, I'd say that's up for grabs.
Sure.
So what are you going to give this one?
I'm going to give it 3 stars.
All right.
I think it's a solid adventure / disaster movie. If Armageddon is, maybe a 3.5 just because of its goofiness and all this crazy shit it does, this is a 3 maybe. I think it's solid.
I give it 2.5. Yeah.
Mm.
The years haven't been as kind to it because there's so many things made from it, but you got to realize it's one of the first, put it in its context,
Yeah.
But it's definitely good. It's definitely worth watching. It's well paced, even if it did feel a little long to me. It's like, oh my God, we're here to the rope thing, and we got a half hour of them going to the rope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, they're building up the tension and stuff. But
that last 10 or 15 minutes is a little long, but I think, I think that comes from probably just they maybe should have chopped just a little bit out of the middle. I mean, I think it did win some awards for editing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It's like we said with Get Out. You can't trim anything or make it any. It needs that. It needs a time to properly fill out all the characters, and because you'd be losing what little subplots you have. And I can't really think of anything that I would want to lose. you know.
Right, I hear you.
But it does
No, I
feel
hear
like
you.
it goes a bit, but it's not quite 2 hours. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's good.
Yeah. Yep. Which brings us to Go, I guess.
Go from 1999.
Yep.
I was one of the few people that actually saw this when it came out.
In the theater, really?
Yeah, I saw it at the drive-in of all places.
Wow.
I think I saw it the day it came out. But apparently this movie didn't cost that much to make. I think it was like close to 30 million, and it only grossed like 25 or something, or maybe like a little bit over its budget. So it was not a very
20
big
says
success.
20 million IMDb estimated budget and a gross worldwide of 28.
Yeah, that's kind of like nobody made money off of this one, but it launched people. It helped to solidify careers. So Go is this weird movie told in 3 different parts. People call it like a junior Pulp Fiction because we had so many of those type of movies after then, of people trying to tell the story in different chunks. And how do you even describe it? It's like people partying on New Year's weekend, and you see what happens from each point of view, and it all kind of connects. I know it's vague, but I'm trying to think of a good way to.
The summary is the aftermath of a drug deal as told from 3 different points of view.
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's also the storyline, which is told from 3 different perspectives. A story of a bunch of young Californians trying to get some cash, do and deal some drugs, score money and sex in Las Vegas, and generally experience the rush of life. So it's a kind of a slice of life vignette type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where this film immediately loses me is because it's so derivative. Like it's so trying to be current Pulp Fiction that it's really like whole. I mean, what do they do? They start the movie with a girl in, having a conversation and giving her life philosophy and talking about fucking nothing. It's so
like
Tarantino.
It's Clerks
like,
and Pulp
holy
Fiction
shit.
fused, right?
That is literally my note.
Yeah.
I said, now we see the full effect of Tarantino and Smith and the whole mumblecore film themes.
Mhm.
They've come fucking full circle.
That's why I say it's pure 99. Everybody's like
just
peak Tarantino ripoff period.
Fuck,
Yeah.
exactly, dude.
Mhm.
It's everybody's just marinated in that style and wants to, and that he's the guy right then, and everybody wants to. It's like people want to be George, wanted to be Spielberg or whatever. It's just, yeah. It tries so fucking hard. Like it tries so fucking hard.
Yeah, it's Doug Liman's second movie as a director after Swingers, and he ended up being his own DP on this film.
Yep. He did a great job with it. I mean, the film looks good.
It's completely derivative, but I like it more now than I did back then, because back then I'm like, oh, this is just total ripoff, and now I'm like, well, at least it knows what it is and it does what it's trying to do,
Yeah, it just smacks you in the face how Tarantino it is. It's like I don't know. It's like it's crazy. It's just it's wild how it's just starting right off the bat trying to be Tarantino.
So it's this woman who works at the grocery store, and she gets set up to do a bad drug deal. So first she has to go to, here's Timothy Oliphant again. We get to see him again.
Timothy Olyphantastic.
The drug dealer and ask for 20 hints of ecstasy, which just so happened to be the amount that you can get really big trouble for. And what does he do? He manages to sell her the X. One of the parts of that I thought was interesting is he turns up this volume and he makes her pull her shirt up, and you go, is he perving out? And you go, no, he's looking for a wire. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of weird. And so then she eventually finds her way to the fucking cops back when Jay Moore had a career. Sorry, I forgot he was in the movie. I wouldn't have.
Jay Moore movie, dude. Or it's the third.
Second, I think. Yeah.
Jerry Maguire, was he in Swimming with Sharks in the background at any time?
No.
God, I could have
He should have been.
Was. All right, yeah, he should have been. Whoa, wait, is he the other brother in Judgment Night?
No.
The one that doesn't go doesn't he show up in Judgment Night in the beginning, or am I crazy?
I hope not.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Anyway,
But
sorry.
anyways, yeah, so she realizes that drug deal's going bad because when the dudes came in the grocery store to order the X from her, they bought a bunch of orange juice. And so she asked for something to drink, right? And then the guy's like, "Oh, we're all out of OJ. Here's a cerveza." And she immediately knows, like, well, this is a completely fucked situation. So she goes to the bathroom and flushes all the X and just fucking leaves.
Yep.
And then she gets this bright idea to start selling fake drugs at the rave.
Well, she has to.
Yeah,
Because
she's got to make that money back, or she's going to
make that money
her
back.
house. It's giving me
Yep.
FLC Punk vibes at this point. But things like selling the dipshits the fake drugs and watching them think that they're getting off on it. Look, a lot of people say that Requiem for a Dream rings very true, and maybe it does for things that they've been in their life, but from all the weird shit that I've seen in my life, Go is a little more realistic than Requiem for a Dream. I'll just say that. And also, a hyper version of that would be Spun. Not like somebody's being tied to a bed and left for 3 days while the other person goes out to score, but I wouldn't be fucking surprised. And so she sells a bunch of this fucking fake drugs, and then just when Timothy Oliphant's about to catch up with her, she gets hit by a car suddenly, as you do.
Well, that's a great way to take out. She's a rat fuck kind of character, anyways.
Yeah, and so he's like,
really
"Fuck
feel
this,
bad for
I'm
her.
just gonna leave," and so he just goes back home. And then I think
he was going to shoot her. Remember, he was going to shoot her.
Going to shoot her, yeah.
And he didn't have to.
Mm-hmm. And so then we switch to her friend that she works with at the grocery store, the British guy, right? And his adventure in Vegas, which is just, this is the real Tarantino trying to wannabe type thing.
It's again, right off the bat, it's just Tarantino. It's just.
But I will give it to Doug Liman
It
for
sticks
this.
out like a sore thumb. Don't eat the shrimp, Marty. Whatever you do.
You told him not to, and they did, and that's why they were stuck in. I'm like, what about those other two guys? Oh, they're sick back in the hotel room. It was actually making me laugh at how completely ridiculous it was. And movies like this made me think making marijuana was a good idea. Because it was all the drugs that everybody did in the early 90s coming home to roost in movies around 99. But anyways, they're out there doing a crazy car chase, which they were going to cut from the budget apparently. But Doug Liman changed the budget around, rearranged it, paid for his own overtime because he wanted to make sure that he was like, I'm not cutting the car chase. The car chase is, if you don't have that, you don't have your whole middle of the movie. And yeah, I would say, it would be a lot duller without the insane.
I
doesn't
found
make a goddamn lick of sense. Almost a Cheech and Chong movie where they're giving the valet the keys, and
I found that the chase was fine up until the end.
Yeah,
and then we get into that tight alleyway, and it got kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And then although I did find funny that they're driving home with the fucked up car, right? That was pretty. But
they just wanted us out of there.
It was just kind of dumb. And I have a note there that's like, oh, they got into the Austin Powers situation where he's backing and forwarding the little cart back and forth, and he's stuck in the hallway. And I thought, but now then suddenly miraculously
and then they freed them. I was like, they
freed them. Yeah,
they're driving again.
Oh my God.
It's almost like it's Looney Tunes, right? I'm like, so I used to watch it and be like, well, come on. And this time I was like, this is just stupid. So I'm just gonna laugh.
Very silly.
We told you not to touch the dancers, and of course, what does he do? Because we can't let that dangle out there without, obviously, dude's gonna be an asshole. And And so then what the third part of the story is, we tell it from the point of view of these two soap stars, which are the ones who go to the grocery store to do the X deal with the, the grocery worker. They wanted to hook up with the British guy, but he had gone to Vegas, so they hook up with, like what you were saying, Sarah Polly's character, the first grocer. So we get to see from their point of view. We get to see William Fichtner's, is that how you say his last name? Bizarre cop character, And
Yeah,
he
dude,
tries
he
to
plays
sell
a
an Amway at one point to get
yeah.
out of it.
He's a mid-level. He's a multi-level marketing scheme, dude. And because the whole time you think that he and his wife are swingers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think for sure at some point he's gonna be like, you guys down to fuck, and then he's like, can we be honest with you? And he lets his secret out, and it's that his entire home has been supplied by Confederated products,
Oh
which is
yeah,
like Amway.
not
And they're like, you
Amway.
want us to sell Amway? He's like, it's not Amway, it's Confederated products, and it's proven, and we're making a lot of money doing it. And it's just like, holy shit, that's
Mhm.
really even weirder than the whole
It really.
what I like. It's the hell that's fucking weird. Yeah,
This is what we do.
yeah. But through the whole thing, he's a weirdo creeper through most of the movie up until that reveal.
Yeah.
And Jane Krasinski from 30 Rock showing up
Yeah.
suddenly as the wife was just a great kind of treat. That was really
Mhm.
fun. Yeah. So Zach, would you say that you're open to new things? I mean, fucking that's a red flag. Just run, dude. Just run.
Go.
And then you find out they're MLM, and it's like run faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then they show up at that dude's house, and there's Melissa McCarthy
Her
looking so
first
fucking
movie.
young. Looking so fucking young.
Yeah. Her
Jeez.
very first film, and it was Jennifer Coolidge who said to them, "You need to see her and put her in this,"
Mm-hmm.
because it's like when you find Melissa McCarthy, you put her in the movies.
Yeah. She was funny. Finding out that the two actors are gay and they're in a relationship was
Mhm. The writer's gay
That's-
too. Yeah.
not surprising, but I like the way they played it.
Yeah. It's
Like
not
it
laugh, it's
just
real.
it was just a thing. No, it was just a thing. Like suddenly they're just talking about like, well, who'd you cheat on me with? I'll tell you if you tell me.
Oh yeah, they find
And
out
you-
it
and
was
then you-
Jimmy the hair
And
guy.
then suddenly you're like, wait, are these two guys gay? And then they admit it, and then they admit the same guy, and you're like, they are. Holy shit! Okay, they're in a relationship. And I really like the way the writer handled that. He didn't
Mhm.
make it the central focus of the story. He didn't make it. You don't find out because they're in the first part with Sarah Polly in that whole
Mhm.
section. And I guess you can call it in Act One, because it's all basically 30-minute stories.
Yeah.
And so Act One, they're in there, and there's no mention of it at all. And then even later, when they're over with the Amway dude and all that shit, there's no mention of it. And then suddenly it just kind of comes out organically and naturally in conversation when they're alone by themselves. So
Yeah.
you can tell they're not really telling everybody because they're actors and they're on TV together.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're gay anyway.
And they
I
end
thought
up
it was
at
pretty
that
good.
brave.
I like the way they
Yeah.
looked at. Yeah. And just like in Pulp Fiction, the characters from the first two acts clash in the third act.
Mhm. That's a good device.
It's super predictable. It was super predictable. I could see that coming from most of the shit I could see coming from a
Yeah.
mile away,
Yeah.
just because all you got to do is think of it in Tarantino story building terms, and you're like, here comes this, here
Mhm.
comes this, here comes this. The guy was definitely a Tarantino disciple and telling a slash Pulp Fiction slash
That makes sense when
Reservoir.
you look at
movie.
Swingers, though, right? Because they're already talking about him and referencing
Mhm.
it a little, so it's like this
Totally.
direct lineage, and then he goes off to make the first Bourne movie after that. And
Absolutely, yeah.
his
He did a
career is
great
set
job with that.
then. Yeah, and he's not doing Tarantino pastiche at that point. He just kind of did it here to kind of launch pad in a way.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think he didn't write the script, so he's just shooting it.
Yeah.
So he's not, it's not up to him to, just there's so Jesus, even the end of the movie, well, how does it end? It ends with two people in a fucking coffee shop having a philosophical conversation before they go off to what? Oh, watch somebody do something damaging to another person, just like the needle in the chest, only it's a shot in the arm.
Well, what are we gonna do? What are you guys doing for New Year's?
It was insane. The duality of those movies. It was really crazy.
Yeah. So the couple is the one who ends up running into the grocery cashier and knocking her into the ditch in that third part, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so much like Get Out, it's like, oh, I'm gonna have a hit and run, but they go back, right? Because they realize that they can't do that. And this is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I think this is the part, right? Or maybe this was earlier. No, I think this is the part. The club returns again. Remember, the club was in Swingers. That
Yes.
device you use, and
Yes,
here's the club
club.
in a second Doug Liman movie. That made me smile because I'm like, look at the director using his same devices. He has this small obsession with the club, and it makes me giggle.
That's hilarious.
They were going to use the club to literally club somebody to death, but
They were,
chose not
and they
to.
decided against it.
They
Yep.
thought that would be a bad idea. That would be akin to just leaving her in the ditch to die. And so she ends up at the hospital, and then everything kind of works itself out. But my favorite part of the movie is her dipshit friend who takes
Manny.
two X pills. In he doesn't hear you're not supposed to
Fries
take
himself
more
out.
than one. You take two, you're going to be fine. And what does he do? He takes two, and so he's just tripping balls through the whole movie, seeing a Macarena that's not happening at the grocery
Yep.
store. He thinks this cat's
good shit.
talking to him.
Yeah,
And
that's good shit.
then, in one of the most realistic things I've ever seen, here, just sit here. And they put him by the dumpster, and they forget his ass is even there until the end of the movie, and he's still sitting there.
Yep.
And I can imagine somebody still sitting there.
Oh,
That
easily.
rang true to me in '99. That still rings true now. Like, oh my God, it really shows just what was going on in the late '90s. People say that time period was cringy. No, people were just on a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
They weren't making
There was
rational decisions.
There was a lot of psychedelics running around back then. That's,
That's
for sure.
where you get all that shit from, people. I figured it out. I watched Go Again, and I figured it out.
Can you smell the veggie burgers, Marty?
No, because
Smell them.
Crazy. Well, then
Smell them.
It's like they know they're in a
You can
Pulp
have
Fiction
all the
ripoff.
veggie burgers you want, Marty. Just help me get the
that's-
scene done.
See, now you're talking about it makes it funnier to me.
See, I'll be bringing that up the next time we're on set. That'll be hilarious.
Those old style spinning grocery checkouts. When was the last time you saw one of those, right?
Oh, I haven't seen one of those in a while.
That took me back.
Me too.
Grocery store was unrealistically large, though. I thought, especially their back room and everything. Let's see. It's kind of akin to Buffalo 66, that type of weird. The guy who made that movie is the king of these weird type, what the fuck, late 90s movies. I think he's been labeled difficult to work with.
Buffalo 66, isn't that, what's his name? Vincent?
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of that
Gallo.
weird vibe.
Vincent Gallo? Yeah.
It's like these are movies I would have seen on IFC or something.
That's the dude that made Brown Bunny, too, right? Vincent Gallo,
The ultimate.
Yeah.
Next week, the Brown Bunny.
No.
So yeah, I actually did see this at the theater, and I'd seen it a few times throughout the years, and I was always like, yeah, But this time the other day, it was kind of like I kind of appreciated it a little more. It's not like great or anything, but there was enough of it where I was just like, there were little pieces that I was like, okay, I appreciate this a little more. And of course, it's got that song by Lynn, "Steal My Sunshine," which is basically 1999 in a fucking nutshell.
Yeah, it's Steal My Sunshine, and then it's also got fucking No Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, man, they nailed the kind of the soundtrack shit.
It's like the Faith No More and the Gross Point Blank soundtrack.
It's a weird choice to bookend the movie with Katie Holmes, because Katie Holmes is in the movie. She's obviously a rising star, a very pretty girl.
Oh yeah, she'd barely done one.
She's in the beginning, and then at the end, and then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she has these kind of big scenes where she is really overacting really bad in the beginning, and then at the end, and then the movie's over. And it was like this weird bookend.
Oh yeah, she has to stay with Oliphant's drug dealer character as the collateral in the meantime, and then she ends up hooking up with him. And then when the Vegas crew all shows up at Oliphant's house, and everything's been charged to him.
Yeah,
it somehow wraps itself up, which reminded me of one of our old scripts where it was like all the gangsters chase each other around. At the end, they just sat down and got rational. Well, what can we do to fix? Here, just shoot my arm. Right here. I don't mind.
So Trainspotting is in '96, and to me, the red-haired British character seemed very much like
that. You know, I never saw that. Isn't that weird?
He seemed Trainspotting, really?
Isn't that weird? It's a blind spot for me.
So he seemed very much like a Renton type character, and so yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I'll give it this. The movie moves really well. It looks fucking great. Doug Liman shoots a great movie. He really does.
Yeah, there's no real fat
he's had a
anymore.
career of shooting good movies. No, there's no bad shots in the film or
It was
anything
kind
like
of like,
that. It's
look,
just
I can make a movie. Give me more work. Like he was
absolutely.
he was pegged to make the film Heartbreakers,
Mm.
but he didn't want to make that one. You know, I think it was that Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sigourney Weaver comedy thing, and
Okay,
his
yeah.
agent was like, "Don't do this other thing." He's like, "No, fuck, I'm doing this one," and so nobody made any money because but it was enough to, and it was all night shoots too. Ugh.
He did Born Identity. He did Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And then everything after that, I haven't seen.
Edge of Tomorrow's fantastic.
I've only seen his first 4. I'm curious about the rest of his career now.
That new Roadhouse was.
Yeah, and then he goes all the way up to Roadhouse.
Yeah,
he's working with Damon again on something too.
Interesting. Well,
yeah,
what do you think?
Swingers, though, right? But you can tell it's the same director as Swingers in parts, right? You just don't have the Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn angle in it.
It feels very much like a Swingers type film. It's just faster paced. Swingers needed a slower pace. It was more of a character driven film
movie.
And this is more as like setting up a bunch of dominoes and then hitting one and then filming them fall and then having 3 cameras going and cutting 3 different angles of it so you can see it from 3 different ways. That's kind of what this movie is like.
And then I saw that Doug Liman directed some episodes of The OC, including the pilot, which is what you do because you direct the pilot and you get paid for the whole run of the program. And then at first my brain went, but he's an action guy. And then you go, you're forgetting he was the Swingers guy first. He's proven he can do both.
Yeah.
So
good director. I admire his career. He's done well.
So that was a weird, unusual New Year's choice. Yours was definitely more on the nose, but they were both still kind of out there.
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, again,
yeah.
We kind of set our own rules and then broke them by saying, let's make a movie that's about the holiday, but there aren't really any. I mean, other than 1 or 2, there aren't really a lot of freaking movies about New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's we can get a little looser with, like Thanksgiving, but Christmas you can obviously. It's like don't pick
Christmas,
Die Hard, right?
Yeah, don't pick Die Hard. Pick a movie that's about Christmas.
Might make us do Die Hard in June, just on purpose. I think that's when it came out, right? The month.
Yeah, I think so. The Poseidon Adventure came out for the Christmas run. It was December 12th when it released. So it was a Christmas release movie.
I think which is why summer.
Yeah. I read that Poseidon was it came out, did really well, and then it got re-rented back into theaters in 74.
Oh, I believe
it. And it had another run in 74. So it ended up doing like 120 million total.
Yeah, no home video back then, people.
No home video, folks. If you wanted to see a movie more than once, you had to wait. You had to hope that it was going to come around again. Or you went to see it several times while it was out.
Yeah.
My dad said that's what he had to do with MASH. He went to see MASH, and people were laughing so hard in it he couldn't hear the whole movie, so he just went and saw it again the next day so you could catch the rest of the film. That's insane.
Very early Taye Diggs also.
Yeah, very early Taye Diggs. Early Breckenmeyer.
Oh yeah, Breckenmeyer. Apparently that was it was a coveted movie, and all the young people were trying to get in it. And like Breckenmeyer was quoted like, who's they gonna pick? Who's getting in this fucking thing? Yeah.
Right.
Well, they almost feel like pseudo entourage-ish, but even more assholes.
Yeah, I guess that leads to his Road Trip and other type of movies that he did.
Mm-hmm. You look at the release date here. April 9th, 99. So it's a pre-summer release.
Mm-hmm.
So that was coming out right when, Matrix, Phantom Menace, right in the heart of all those. And I feel like this is one that people forget about, but that's really when I think of 1999 personally, this movie contains some of that feeling in it. Even if it's not that great of a movie, it does really remind me of just how whacked out people were at the time. Because, it took a few years for these stories that happened in the early 90s to find their way onto the big screen by the end of the decade. And the next thing you know, we were in the aughts.
True. And the aughts are they're not playing.
They don't fuck around.
They don't fuck
I'll stay
around.
here. I wasn't looking at his
I
neck,
mean,
man.
For me, 99 is like, I don't know.
Blair Witch
It's a
Project.
little bit different, but yeah, I definitely feel like this capture. If you want to feel like what the late 90s was about, this movie captures it pretty well. Pretty well.
Bowfinger, they're all they all swirl in my mind to make that picture. And it's been 25 years since 99 now. And a lot of people are looking back on movies from that year. Places are doing retrospectives, so you could do worse than go if you can find it. I think there's a Blu-ray of it now too. So
I think I would prefer to watch Bowfinger.
yeah, it's a better movie.
You could definitely do worse than go. There are definitely worse movies out there.
So, what'd you think overall of this one then?
I'm gonna do what you did on the last one, 2.5 stars. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's great. It's right in the middle. It's pretty derivative, pretty formulaic. It's very, and I think it's fair to say it because I've heard it said about my own movies. It definitely feels like it's leaning towards a certain director's style.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like and storytelling and method, and that seems like Tarantino. It is cool and slick in places, and I like watching Nexus films where you have a lot of young actors that go on to other films, so that's a lot of fun too. But it's just not enough to make me want to watch it.
Yeah, it would be another 5 or 6 years before I dig it out again.
Yeah, it's a fun oddity. Yeah. Like it's one of those fun oddities, and then when you watch it, you don't really regret watching it, but at the same time, it's not like you're not like, fuck, I should watch that more.
Yeah, it's like movies like this and Blow around that. It just made me think Marijuanos was a good idea. You can make a movie about a drug deal gone bad. You can do this. This is legitimate. I'm the same as you, 2.5 stars. It's right in the middle. And like I said earlier, I've enjoyed it more throughout the years. Back in 99, I was like, But watching it the other day was like, time has been kind of kind to it. It moves. That's another thing it has in its favor is it just keeps zipping past and then,
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it definitely doesn't linger. It moves. He's a good storyteller. It's just the story he's telling is kind of you've seen that story before. Just it's like watching G.I. Joe, but they call it the U.S. Navy squad or something. It's the same thing, but just with a different. So there you go.
Yeah. So happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
I'd advise watching both of these in a row. Why not? That'll be your New Year's.
Yeah. That would be an interesting take. The fun thing now is that we actually start to get doing movies. We have done so many movies over the last 6 to 8 weeks that are holiday themed.
Oh yeah, we've just been themed crazy.
I'm ready to get into the season and start pulling out the crazy guns, and I've got one for you right out the bat.
Going back into our Talking Pondo. So next week is another Making Pondo, because that's how we do it around here. Every 3 episodes and then a making. So that'll wrap up the year, and then the episode after that, it's episode 50.
That's right.
Where we come back with the first one of the year of January. So
what you got for me?
For episode 50, I'm realizing it's a special one, so I'm giving a special movie. Your movie is My Chauffeur.
Oh,
a film from the beginning of January 1986. But I figured episode 50 is a milestone. This is a good time to talk about the Deborah Foreman classic, My Chauffeur.
We love you, Deborah Foreman.
Find a copy of it and watch it before next week, audience.
Such a wonderful actress in person. We love you, Deborah Foreman. Thank you so much for coming out to Mad Monster. I'm going to. 50 is big. I'm not. I don't want to treat it like any other one though.
Yeah.
Treat it like any other episode. And but at the same time, I'm going to give you this one. I think it's from the same era. What's My Chauffeur, 85 or 86?
My Chauffeur came out in January 86. So
okay,
it's like
so this is
there. Yeah.
Just on the other side of that. I'm going to give you the movie for 1985, starring Kevin Costner, Fandango.
Oh, you're going for one of the 80s classics lists. Okay. That's been a very long time since I've seen that. It's going to almost be like it's brand new. Fandango?
That's Fandango.
For a second, I thought you said Silverado.
Nope.
Fandango. Another one I haven't seen in a long time. So maybe I was thinking that. So is Fandango a part of the classic 80s list? I don't think it is.
I do not think so. I think
was
it's on
thinking
my.
Silverado.
I think it may be on my B
Your
movie
B-movie
list.
list. Yeah. Well, that'll be a nice one to start the year with. Yeah.
Yeah,
Couple of
I figure
westerns.
it's also a bit of a lost classic.
Okay.
I mean, I could have gone with something even crazier lost like Joystick or Hamburger or something, but I didn't. No, actually,
movies.
I think this actually is in my classic list.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah, it is. It's in my classic list. Yeah.
can't keep track of that stuff. Try
Yeah.
to. All right. I keep track of it. I just don't have it memorized. Let's see, 1984,
Yeah, 85.
85, Silverado, I see.
Yep.
And no. So at least when I made that list, you didn't have it on there. So I know you've updated it since.
Yeah, I've updated it since.
I'm keeping it OG.
Keeping it OG list.
Wow. So yeah,
you know,
it is nice to get to some talking Pondos.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there'll be more
And
talking with guests coming up too. So
This will be two interesting ones. I think, Fandango, from what I remember as a kid, was a staple on cable. It was a sleeper. Never heard of it in theaters, but it was a real sleeper staple for cable. And that's how a lot of movies that I found back in the day, Real Genius and other type of movies, that's what they were.
Yeah.
Manhattan Project, these sleeper films
well,
that came out
Kaufman
on
didn't
cable.
even have a career yet at that point.
No, I think this is right after The Big Chill. I think this is his first feature.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Because he was supposed to be the dead body in The Big Chill, but they never showed his face, so he never got any credit.
Fandango, not the place you go to buy your movie tickets, but a movie.
So there's another reason. There's a hidden reason, and I'll tell you why I chose this movie. Because it is weirdly. Yes, it is early Judd Nelson. This movie is weirdly significant for a specific reason. It's tied to one of my favorite films of all time. And I'll tell you why when we do the movie review. Talk about it. But so it kind of has a good place in the 50th. What?
Let me see something. Because I'm looking at the movie poster now, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm. Damn, if I saw this, it was probably once on cable years ago. If I even saw it at all. It might be like Poseidon, where I have memories of part 2 instead, but let me.
Well, this should be interesting then, because this is, yeah.
You know who directed Fandango?
Yeah. Kevin Reynolds.
Yeah, he directed 187 with our friend Paul Navarro.
Yeah,
oh my God, that's so weird.
That's not the specific special reason, but that's one of them, though.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, we'll find out what the other reasons are later. And it could be one of these many other Kevin Costner films.
All right, guys. Well, until then, I guess, right?
Yeah, we'll see you in 2025.
Shove it, Marty.
Oh, jumping the shark with the fucking adding the precocious little kid.
Can you smell the veggie burger? All right, till next week.
Laters. Support the show on Buzzsprout for only $3 a month. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify or the platform of your choice. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page.